A disorienting flash of chaos erupts. A normal school life is violently upended as an entire class finds themselves summoned to another world. Amidst the roaring confusion, a young woman in royal attire, Princess Philia, urges Lord Haruto to hang on as he struggles to cast a complex magical sigil. The vision continues, showing Haruto recoiling in shock as his childhood friend is bound by glowing magical restraints, screaming as she is transformed into his familiar. This marks the beginning of their journey into another world. Then, the scene shifts abruptly to the mundane reality of the present. Students arrive for another ordinary day at school. Inside a bustling classroom, one boy is completely absorbed in a manga, exclaiming how good it is, particularly the part where the mage dies. His loud spoiler jolts another student, Haruto Tutsui, who looks up in annoyance. The one who shouted is Yohei Namba, a popular student known for his lack of delicacy, who is now being approached by another classmate about the manga. Across the room, Mina Mochizuki and Karen Hino are interrupted by Yohei, who asks when they'll hang out. Hino deflects, citing his basketball club duties, which he dismisses by boasting about his talent. Ignoring him, Mina turns and approaches Haruto's desk, asking if he has a second. She stands before him with a serious expression, holding out a plain white envelope. She asks him to give it to his mother, first addressing him formally as Tutsui-kun, then softly correcting herself to the more familiar Haru. He stares back, completely perplexed. His confusion is mirrored by Yohei Namba's irritation. Watching from his seat, Yohei scowls, wondering aloud what their deal is. Haruto, meanwhile, can only manage a hesitant sound, unable to process the request. Another classmate, Megumi, explains to a friend that Haruto and Mina are childhood friends. This information only seems to annoy Yohei more, who complains that even a loser like Haruto gets perks. His friend, Sho, calmly tells him to return to his seat. With the exchange over, Mina walks away from his desk to stand by the window. An uncomfortable silence settles between them as Haruto watches her go, his expression troubled. He is broken from his thoughts by Sho, who leans over and observes quietly that for childhood friends, he and Mochizuki-san seem pretty awkward. He is lost in thought about his awkwardness with Mina when his classmate Karen leans in with a wry smile. She remarks that if she were childhood friends with a beauty like Mina, she'd be thrilled. She then glances toward Namba, telling him to understand his place as a social outcast. The comment makes Haruto reflect on how close he and Mina used to be. As if sensing his thoughts, Mina glances back over her shoulder from her desk, her expression stern and unreadable. Without a word, she abruptly stands and walks away, her heel striking the floor with a sharp sound. Another classmate calls out her name in surprise, but Mina doesn't stop. In that instant, the entire classroom begins to shake violently. Students cry out in alarm, wondering if it's an earthquake as Haruto instinctively shouts for Karen to grab onto something for safety. The violent tremor throws Mina off her feet, sending her stumbling backward directly into Haruto's arms. He catches her, and for a moment they are face to face, her expression a mix of shock and vulnerability. She quietly asks if he hates their situation that much. In a disorienting flash of light, the familiar classroom vanishes. The students find themselves huddled on a cold, stone floor in a dimly lit chamber. Before them stands a mysterious hooded figure holding a large, circular artifact inscribed with glowing, complex runes. He looks around in shock, his mind struggling to process the sudden change. Namba voices the question on everyone's mind. Where are we? Another student exclaims at the sheer number of people gathered. From the shadows, two figures emerge. One is a young woman in regal attire, who looks upon the students with a pained expression, murmuring that this can't be. The students are captivated by her beauty. Beside her, an older, scarred man in armor addresses her as princess, urging her to explain the situation to the heroes. She steps forward, composing herself. With a clear voice, she greets them all, introducing herself as Philia Elmond, the first princess of the Kingdom of Elmond. Her words hang in the air. Haruto and Karen exchange a look of disbelief. Kingdom of Elmond? Karen repeats, having never heard of such a place. As other students murmur in confusion, Haruto can only think, no way, while a faint magical light begins to glow between his hands. Standing before the assembled students, Princess Philia formally addresses them from a grand balcony overlooking a fantastical city. She confirms their suspicions, stating that this is a world different from their own and that, following ancient legends, she has summoned them all to serve as heroes. Her words send a shockwave through the crowd. Haruto stares in disbelief, the phrase summoned to another world echoing in his mind. Beside him, Karen Hino seems thrilled, remarking how exciting it is and just like the story she's read. She asks Haruto what kind of powers he thinks he has, but he can only manage a stunned no in response. Another student, trembling, questions what she even means by heroes. The student's reactions vary wildly. Yohei Namba angrily dismisses the situation as nonsense he's heard in manga, telling his classmate Sho to calm down. Sho, however, remains analytical, pointing out that no mere magic trick could transport their entire class. He gestures towards the sky, reminding Namba of the dragons they saw, arguing that it's impossible without real magic. As the reality sinks in, Karen suggests to a silent Haruto that since everyone is so obsessed with going home, they might as well try to enjoy themselves. Princess Philia then clarifies their situation. According to legend, they can return to their world once their mission is complete. The word mission immediately sets Namba off, who demands to know if they are expected to kill a demon lord or something similar. Her expression turning grave, Philia confirms his fears. She explains that every few hundred years, her country is forced to summon heroes to face grave threats that endanger the entire continent. She elaborates that the threats vary each time, with legends speaking of past heroes who were called upon to slay vicious dragons or defeat powerful demon lords. Bringing her explanation to the present, Philia regretfully admits that the truth is they do not yet know what the current threat is. This revelation stuns Sho and infuriates Namba, who shouts in outrage. Realizing this means they can't go home until the unknown problem is solved. Philia can only offer a sincere apology as the Elder Knight beside her remarks on the unusually large number of heroes summoned. At that moment, a man in a formal military uniform arrives, whom Philia identifies as her brother. He introduces himself to the crowd as Rosius Elmond, the first prince of the kingdom. With a confident smile, he surveys the large group of students. Philia quietly mentions to him that this is an unusually large group, as normally only one hero is summoned. His arrival prompts Sho to step forward and challenge him directly. Adjusting his glasses, Sho questions if the royal family can even provide proper hospitality for so many people. He lays out their grievances. They were summoned against their will and are now expected to complete an unknown mission to go home, all without any reward. He demands good treatment, and his sentiment is echoed by other students in the crowd. Before the prince can respond, Namba explodes with rage. He yells at Sho to watch his mouth, questioning who he thinks he is to make such demands. His anger then shifts towards their new surroundings, as he contemptuously complains that the place looks low-tech and loudly wonders if this world even has baths. His outburst was a familiar sight to his classmates. Karen Hino remarked to Haruto that Namba was always trying to pick a fight, but the class president attempted to de-escalate, insisting that as a hero, he should be respected. Before the argument could escalate, Prince Rosius smoothly intervened, placing a hand on Namba's shoulder. With a disarming smile, he reassured the summoned students not to worry, startling the aggressive young man. He recoiled, trying to shrug off the prince's grip. He demanded to be released, unnerved by the man's proximity. Unfazed, Prince Rosius maintained his hold and his smile, offering to handle all their arrangements before pointedly asking if Namba would refuse to listen. The prince's question was laced with an overwhelming, palpable pressure that washed over the entire group of students. They flinched in unison, their faces contorted with fear and shock. Unable to withstand the invisible force, Namba finally broke, stammering his compliance. Prince Rosius addresses the assembled students, his voice carrying over the crowd. He states that he does not know what desires people from another world might hold. In response, a girl named Megumi enthusiastically raises her hand, shouting that she is right there. The prince acknowledges her by name. With a confident, almost predatory smile, he extends a gloved hand toward her and makes a simple, yet startling request for her to come to his room that night. His invitation sends a wave of confusion and shock through the students. They murmur amongst themselves about the strange request, one even questioning why it must be his room. The prince dismisses their concerns, declaring that it is an honor to be called there. He then relents slightly, stating he has little choice. He explains that the summoning only works if there's intent on both sides, and that someone among them must possess the will to save this world. He advises them not to rush, promising that those who act accordingly will be rewarded. Seizing the opportunity, Megumi excitedly asks if this means they can use magic and have special powers. The prince confirms her hopes with a dramatic flair, conjuring a ball of fire in his palm. He adds that, besides magic, they have also been granted powers called skills. The revelation catches the students, including a wide-eyed Karen and a startled Haruto, by surprise. He elaborates further, explaining that summoned heroes possess physical abilities far exceeding this world's standards, in addition to their granted skills. With a confident smirk, he asks if the prospect isn't appealing. His words ignite a fire of excitement among the students. Namba throws his head back and shouts, demanding to know what kind of power he has. Others begin to notice their bodies feel lighter and express their hopes for strong skills and a chance to use magic. Karen observes her friend, noting quietly that even Haruto is getting excited. With the crowd's anticipation at its peak, Prince Rosius turns to his sister, Princess Philia. He announces that assessing skills is her specialty and formally delegates the task to her. Philia simply agrees, ready to begin. In response, a complex, glowing sigil shaped like an eye materializes in the air, directly in front of her own eye, pulsing with latent power. The sigil activates, causing luminous panels of text and symbols to appear before each of the students, revealing their newfound abilities. As the students stare in awe and confusion, Philia observes the results and declares that, as expected of heroes, they all possess wonderful skills. She explains that since the students all come from a world without skills or magic, it would be best to demonstrate. Yohei Namba, his excitement visible, eagerly asks what kind of power he has. The princess turns to him, confirming that his power is indeed incredible. Despite her praise for Yohei, she then looks directly at Haruto Tutsui, asking if he would mind assisting them. Caught completely off guard, Haruto can only stammer, questioning if she is truly addressing him. He remains bewildered, but Princess Philia clarifies that his power is truly remarkable, making it perfect for a demonstration. This choice infuriates Yohei, who loudly protests, demanding they use him instead of that loser. From the side, Prince Rosius's sharp glare cuts him off as he commands Yohei to forget it. With the outburst silenced, Philia leads a hesitant Haruto away from the other students. He nervously asks what he needs to do to help, and she simply instructs him to look at what is ahead of them. His eyes follow her gesture, widening in sudden, profound shock at the sight. Before them stands a massive, reinforced cage. Inside, a large, striped beast stirs, rattling the bars with its powerful movements. The creature lifts its head, revealing the snarling maw of a great white tiger, its eyes glowing with feral intensity. The other students recoil, murmuring in fear and awe. Princess Philia calmly identifies the creature as a Raigal. She explains that even at this young age, it is a B-rank monster, equivalent to 100 soldiers, and when fully grown, it becomes a dangerous beast capable of rivaling a dragon. A terrible feeling washes over Haruto as he begins to understand. Prince Rosius remarks that a hero's power would normally be useless against such a high-rank opponent, but with Lord Haruto's particular skill, he should just barely be able to use it. The implication leaves Haruto speechless. He is suddenly shoved forward as Philia instructs him to hold his hand out toward the Raigal. The cage door clangs open. The beast lets out a deafening roar, and Haruto desperately pleads for them to wait. He trembles before the roaring Raigal, his face a mask of terror. A voice reassures him that he can activate his power simply by saying the word, but Haruto can only stammer for them to wait. With no other choice, he thrusts his hands forward as a magical seal glows brightly behind him, and bellows the single command, "Submit." The command word reverberates with power, causing the glowing runes on the cage's magical lock to flare with blinding light before shattering. A wave of energy washes over the assembled students as Haruto stands alone before the cage. He looks down at his own hands, a sense of awe spreading across his face as he realizes the incredible power he just unleashed. The Raigal's ferocious roar subsides into a low growl. As the cage door swings open, Haruto realizes with a jolt that the lock has completely vanished. To everyone's shock, the beast, now utterly docile, emerges and affectionately rubs its head against Haruto's side, purring contentedly. His classmates can only stare, dumbfounded by the impossible sight. The Raigal playfully pushes Haruto to the ground and begins licking his face. As he lies there stunned, Princess Philia watches with a knowing smile. She remarks that a hero should possess the power to make anyone submit, her thoughts lingering on the implications of his ability. Haruto, Tutsui, and his classmates were abruptly summoned to another world, their mission as heroes laid bare, to fight a coming calamity. In this new reality, Haruto was granted a unique power, a skill called TAME, allowing him to command monsters. His first test of this ability was a formidable, tiger-like beast. As he faced the creature, Princess Philia observed, stating that with his power as a hero, he should be able to make any opponent submit. Nearby, Mina Mochizuki watched the confrontation with a look of deep concern. The tense moment passed. Haruto's skill was a success, and he now sat calmly on the stone floor, gently stroking the massive, subdued tiger. From a distance, Mina, Karen Hino, and Princess Philia looked on. Karen approached him, amazed that he had completely tamed the beast. Haruto, finding the creature surprisingly cute, was then prompted by Karen to give his new familiar a name. He briefly considered Raidu to its tiger-like appearance, but quickly dismissed the name as too unoriginal. While they spoke, Yohei Namba urged Karen to demonstrate her skill for the princess, but another student mentioned he'd already had his checked. Karen then revealed her own ability, synthesis, explaining that it simply makes her better at mixing things. Though she felt it was plain, Haruto offered encouragement, certain she would master it. His thoughts drifted, wondering about the powers his other classmates possessed. As if in answer, Namba stepped forward with a roar. He unleashed his power, physical enhancement, shattering a thick stone wall with a single punch. He stood back, admiring his work, clearly impressed by his own simple, powerful skill. Pleased with his display, he swaggered over to Sho, mockingly asking what kind of skill he received, doubting it could be as good as his own. Sho, with a placid expression, simply warned him to step back. The reason for his warning became immediately clear. A large chunk of stone, dislodged by Namba's earlier punch, fell from above and struck another student squarely on the head. Namba watched in shock as the student cried out in pain. As Karen rushed to tend to the injury, Namba realized she must possess a healing skill. Watching the scene unfold from a distance, Sho adjusted his glasses, understanding what he had just witnessed. His own skill was future sight, allowing him to see moments into the future. Meanwhile, Philia remarked to Mina that her magic enhancement was an incredible, top-tier skill on par with Namba's physical power. Mina only responded with a quiet sigh. Noticing this, Karen asked Haruto why Mina seemed so detached, questioning their childhood friendship. Haruto admitted with a frown that it had been a long time, and that she was now avoiding him. The focus of the aptitude test shifts. Yohei Namba smugly suggests Mina Mochizuki for the next demonstration, putting her on the spot. Princess Philia instructs her to fire a spell at a practice target, but Mina hesitates, confessing she has never used magic before. The princess then amends her instruction, telling Mina to first visualize the element of fire. To illustrate her point, Princess Philia unleashes a powerful blast of magic herself, striking the target with enough force to leave it smoking. The other students watch in awe, murmuring about whether the princess is always so reckless, and noting the broad-minded nature of the highborn. Watching the display, Namba grins, declaring he understands how it's done. As he holds out his hand, flames begin to flicker into existence. Mina looks on in surprise, while Philia, alarmed, tells him to wait. His confidence proves premature as the small flame instantly erupts into an uncontrolled inferno. The other students cry out in fear from the sudden, intense heat. Mina shouts his name, urging him to extinguish it quickly. Struggling against the blaze he created, Namba quickly casts another spell, Aqua Ring. A massive torrent of water bursts forth, dousing the flames with a loud hiss. As the steam clears, Prince Rosius steps forward with a placid smile. He reassures the students not to worry, confidently stating that he is present and can handle any situation that gets out of hand, which earns him admiring sighs from some of the girls. His presence does little to calm the tension for everyone. From the crowd, Haruto calls out encouragement to Mina, promising to take care of things if anything happens. Before she can respond, Namba aggressively grabs her wrist, shoves her forward, and yells for her to just do it already. The forceful act triggers something catastrophic. A vast, glowing magic circle erupts from the floor, engulfing Mina. She screams as the raw power surges, and the force of its activation sends the other students flying backward. As chaos consumes the hall, Prince Rosius's calm demeanor shatters. He recognizes the phenomenon immediately, shouting that her skill is going berserk. With grave urgency, he commands everyone to restrain the hero, as Haruto watches with a look of helpless fury. A powerful magical circle flares to life, trapping Mina within its glowing confines. On one side, Haruto strains against the immense energy, recognizing the incredible power of a hero. He realizes that at this rate, both he and Mina will be overwhelmed as she cries out in pain. As the energy surges, Princess Philia looks on with alarm. She understands that if Haruto uses the hero's skill, someone will be chosen as a target. A sharp pain suddenly courses through her, causing her to cry out. She turns desperately towards the students, pleading with Haruto by name. He looks over, startled, as he hears both Philia and Mina calling for him amidst the chaos. His classmates, including Karen and Namba, can only watch, their faces etched with confusion and concern as they turn their attention to him. Namba steps forward, questioning Haruto about the skill called TAME. He equates it to brainwashing, pointing out that it would turn Mina into a mindless pet, just like his own tiger familiar. As Philia urges Haruto to hurry, the horrifying truth dawns on him. If this continues, the mana will consume Mina and transform her into a monster. He hesitates, grappling with the morality of turning a person into a familiar. His hand clenches into a fist as he watches Mina struggle against the overwhelming magical force. His indecision is broken when Karen grabs his shoulder, shouting that there is no time to hesitate. Seeing Mina's agonized expression, Haruto's face hardens with resolve. He rushes to Princess Philia's side, taking her hand and asking if the process is the same as when he tamed his familiar, Rai. She confirms it is exactly the same. From a distance, the prince watches with a satisfied smile, thanking Haruto for proceeding. Steeling himself, he stands before Mina and invokes the skill, shouting the command, Tame. A tremendous pressure erupts from the magic circle, forcing him to plant his feet and brace against a force that feels like it could blow him away. As he struggles, Philia comes up behind him, adding her strength to his. She encourages him to keep going, telling him they're almost there. Below them, Mina writhes in pain, weakly calling out his name one last time as the prince observes the scene with cold detachment. As he poured his will into the ritual, a distant memory surfaced, a playground at dusk. A younger Mina stood beside him, head bowed, apologizing for something she believed was all her fault. He had gently placed a hand on her head, reassuring her that it was okay. With the unwavering certainty of childhood, he had made a solemn promise to always protect her. That vow echoed into the present, fueling his resolve. With a desperate cry that tore from his throat, he declared that he would keep that promise. His declaration unleashed a final, blinding surge of power, forcing the horrified onlookers to shield their eyes. The lights subsided, revealing Haruto kneeling on the ground, holding Mina's now still form. The glowing, chaotic glyphs that had surrounded them faded into nothingness. He looked up, panting and covered in sweat, as Princess Philia's voice cut through the stunned silence. She announced to the crowd that hero Haruto had succeeded. The taming of Lady Mina was complete. The realization that the tame skill worked on humans rippled through the other students. As Haruto processed this, Mina stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, but they were vacant, empty. A pained gasp escaped his lips as he stared into the face of the friend he had saved, but perhaps also lost. In the training grounds of the New World, Karen Hino notices Haruto Tutsui's despondent air. She warns him that if he keeps sighing, his luck will run out. He replies grimly that he thinks it's already gone. When she playfully asks who took it, his mood darkens, and he retorts that if she says that again, he'll stab her. A few days have passed since the students were summoned. Their new life resembles their old one, with mornings dedicated to lectures on history, missions, and economics, and afternoons spent in practical magic and combat training. As expected of heroes, they all quickly surpass the skills of the royal knights and mages. While everyone else seems to be enjoying themselves, Haruto lets out another heavy sigh during a sparring session. His distraction costs him, as he is thrown to the ground during the exercise. His classmates, including Karen and Mina, watch from a distance. Karen observes that everyone is terrified he'll use his tame ability on them, now that they know it works on humans. Haruto asks her directly if she isn't afraid he'll tame her. She dismisses the fear, explaining that without him, she'd have no one to talk to, and suggests he should be with Mina instead. At the mention of her name, Mina approaches, asking what's wrong. Haruto reflects on how even she is acting differently. Ever since the incident, Mina hasn't left his side, a stark contrast to her previous behavior, both in this world and back at their old school. He realizes that the tame ability likely erased her previous hostility. The unfortunate consequence is that he is now monopolizing the attention of the prettiest girl in class, earning him death glares from the other male students. Princess Philia had informed him there is no known way to undo the effect, leaving him to find a solution on his own. Watching him, Mina sees an opportunity. She admits to herself that she had become too self-conscious to act naturally around him. Now, however, she can simply blame her actions on the tame effect. With this resolve, she reaches out to take his hand. Her advance is cut short by the arrival of the president, who calls out to Karen, teasing her about putting pickles in her lunch bag in their world. Haruto questions the relevance of the comment, but the president brushes it off. Mina watches them, acknowledging her long-held jealousy of Karen, the girl who is always with Haruto. She concedes that Karen is a nice person, which is precisely why she cannot let her guard down. Her internal assessment continues as she muses that Karen uses her plain glasses to hide an attractive face, and likely her figure as well. Shaking off her thoughts, Mina steals her nerves. She decides to seize the opportunity, declaring to herself that the familiar spot beside Haruto belongs to her alone. She lunges forward and grabs him, shouting his name. At that exact moment, a powerful impact shakes the training ground. A massive, striped beast lies defeated nearby, knocked aside by an unseen force. Yohei Namba stands casually over it, offering a simple, unapologetic apology. Haruto can only stare, stunned by the sudden and overwhelming display of power. He stood stunned by the display of power, only for Namba to turn with a smug grin, claiming his magic had merely slipped. Beside Haruto, Sho began muttering a complex sequence of movements, seemingly analyzing the event, leaving Haruto utterly perplexed. His confusion was shattered when a new spell, Fire Arrow, erupted nearby. A volley of flaming projectiles streaked through the training grounds, forcing him to look on in alarm. The sudden barrage caught everyone off guard. Namba and the other students flinched in surprise, their eyes wide. His own expression hardened as he registered the unexpected threat. As the fiery projectiles rained down, a concerned voice called out, asking if anyone was hurt. A chorus of replies quickly confirmed that everyone was safe. With the immediate danger gone, Mina turned to Haruto with a playful look. She teased that he was supposed to step in and tell the others not to fight over him. Sweating, Haruto could only admit that he supposed it was technically his fault. Their conversation was cut short by a smooth, condescending voice. Prince Rosius had appeared, flanked by two female students, a chilling smile playing on his lips. He remarked that this wasn't good, as heroes shouldn't be fighting amongst themselves. Enraged, Namba stepped forward to confront the prince, whom the other students called Logus. He accused Rosius of messing with their girls again. Unfazed, Rosius claimed he was merely greeting the ladies and coolly offered to be Namba's opponent if he had a problem with it. Sho quietly explained to Haruto that challenging the prince was useless, recounting how Rosius had instantly crushed other students who tried. He noted that the prince's future sight and physical enforcement were impressive, but his praise was overshadowed by Rosius's intense, knowing gaze fixed upon them from across the field. As Haruto and Prince Rosius observe, it becomes clear that Mina Mochizuki has fully mastered the magic enhancement skill. This newfound power is a direct result of Haruto's unique taming ability. The taming skill creates a synergistic loop, boosting the abilities of both the tamer and the tamed. After taming the creature Raigal, both Haruto and the beast grew stronger. Now, with Mina also tamed, a cycle of power circulates among the three of them, enhancing their capabilities even further. Following this revelation, Karen deduces that the more individuals Haruto tames, the stronger he will become. Haruto hesitantly agrees. Amused, Karen suggests that perhaps she should be tamed as well, earning a sharp rebuke from Mina. Their conversation is cut short as Prince Rosius approaches Mina directly, stating he has yet to greet her properly and inviting her to his room that evening. In response to his forward invitation, Mina recoils and loudly rejects him, shouting that she has absolutely no interest in him or his room. Her blunt and forceful refusal leaves the prince utterly stunned. He stares blankly, his composure shattered by the unexpected rejection. From the side, Haruto watches the prince's reaction with a puzzled expression. Rosius quickly regains a semblance of his pride, turning away with a dismissive wave. He tells Mina she can come if she changes her mind, but his tone shifts as he adds a final, ominous warning for her to never come again. After the prince departs, Mina confronts Haruto, asking why he rejected Rosius so harshly and questioning if he would have preferred her to accept the invitation. Haruto is taken aback by her question, while Karen sighs at the unfolding drama. Later, the students are gathered as Princess Philia makes an announcement. She informs them that it is time for a practical experience and that they will be entering a dungeon. She explains that her brother advised this course of action, as dungeons are ideal for testing skills, fighting monsters, and earning rewards. The news of a dungeon sends a murmur through the classroom, the reality of being in another world setting in. Amidst the chatter, one student confidently remarks that someone like Haruto could probably clear it with ease. Namba scoffs at the idea, questioning what a dungeon even is. Haruto, however, deflects the praise, admitting that he isn't as strong as Mina. Hearing this, Mina gives him a warm smile, pleased that his mood has improved. As the students listened, Princess Philia began her explanation. She described dungeons as ancient ruins imbued with magical energy, places where one could find rare magic items, but also face dangerous traps and monsters. She elaborated on the nature of the threat, explaining that the deeper one ventures into a dungeon, the denser the magic becomes, and, consequently, the more dangerous the monsters that dwell within. The princess then detailed the ranking system. Dungeon danger levels, or clear difficulty, are ranked in 10 tiers based on the total magic energy. Any dungeon ranked difficulty 7 or higher is considered uncharted territory, its dangers effectively immeasurable by humanity. With a sudden shift, she announced that the dungeon they would be entering has a difficulty of 7. A murmur of concern spread through the students, one questioning if that was too high for their first attempt. Philia smiled reassuringly, clarifying that they would only be visiting the first 3 floors, which have already been mapped and cleared, making them mostly safe. Namba scoffed at the news, declaring it boring. But Philia's expression hardened instantly. She warned them that even for a hero, letting one's guard down would lead to death. The star finality of her words sent a chill through Haruto and his classmates. Continuing her grim lesson, she listed potential hidden traps, from simple pitfalls to teleportation spells that send victims into inescapable voids. She gave a simple rule: don't touch anything suspicious. Then, just as quickly, her cheerful demeanor returned as she wished them an enjoyable first dungeon dive. The students' apprehension gave way to excitement, with Namba and Haruto murmuring about the magical artifacts and treasures they might find. Philia announced that the exploration would set off the next day, giving them time to prepare. She promised to distribute maps and finally revealed the name of their destination. The following day, the students, now outfitted in simple white cloaks, stood before the dungeon's entrance. A gaping maw formed from the colossal, fossilized skull of some great beast. Philia declared its name to be the Royal Tomb. Standing beside Mina and Karen, Haruto processed the ominous title with unease. As they prepared to enter, the princess issued a final directive. Inside the dungeon, they would operate in groups of 3, and she instructed them to form their teams. Before Haruto could even process the command, Mina and Karen flanked him, each grabbing one of his arms and decisively forming their trio. As his new team formed, Mina declared with a serious expression that she was, after all, Haruto's familiar. Karen, with a sly grin, playfully added that if Haruto were to abandon her, she'd have no choice but to join the group of students left without a team. Their bickering drew the attention of others at the dungeon entrance. Haruto, attempting to placate them, insisted that teamwork was important and urged everyone to get along. Mina, however, turned to him and asked if he was unhappy with the situation. From the side, Yohei Namba watched their exchange in silence. His gaze hardened, shadows falling across his face as he stared at the newly formed trio with an intense, unreadable expression. Before anyone could react further, a chilling presence descended upon them. Haruto, Mina, and Karen froze, their faces contorted in shock as a monstrous, toothy grin materialized in the darkness just above their heads. Under the light of a full moon, Prince Rosius explains his reasoning to Yohei Namba. He states that Haruto Tutsui is dangerous, and the existence of a hero who can tame humans would cause unnecessary political friction if it became public knowledge. Namba, agitated, demands to know why he was summoned. The prince calmly acknowledges Namba's dislike for him, asking him not to be so hostile. He continues, revealing that the most important reason for their meeting is to keep Haruto Tutsui under control. Namba's eyes widen in shock and confusion, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. Rosius confirms Namba's unspoken question, stating that the reason Namba is not allowed to leave the palace is precisely to keep Haruto's existence a secret. Namba listens, his expression grim. With a faint, sinister smile, the prince delivers his command. He wants Hero Yohei to eliminate Haruto. The order leaves Namba utterly speechless, his face a mask of disbelief. Rosius acknowledges the difficulty of the task, noting that beyond Haruto's own strength, Namba will have a hard time because Mina Mochizuki is constantly by his side. He then places a small, dark object into Namba's hand, formally entrusting him with the mission. Namba looks down at the item, his expression still one of shock. Turning to gaze at the moon, Rosius sets the timeline. they will strike tomorrow. He coldly rationalizes that no one will blame Namba if one person goes missing during the expedition. His words hang in the air as the scene shifts to a dark, cavernous dungeon. A large group of students, including Haruto, Karen, and Princess Philia, proceed cautiously, their way lit by glowing orbs. The prince's sentiment echoes in the dangerous environment. Accidents are common in the dungeon. Princess Philia addresses the group, reminding everyone to watch for traps and monsters. She establishes a protocol. If anyone in a three-man cell is injured or goes missing, it must be reported immediately. Nearby, Haruto apologizes to her, feeling guilty for forcing her into the dangerous lead position, but she insists it is not his fault. A flashback reveals the events of 2 hours prior. At the dungeon entrance, Sho explains to the princess that the lead is the most dangerous spot, as they must engage enemies first and cover any retreat. He argues that the strongest person should therefore be at the front. This conversation, overheard by Namba, reveals the calculated manipulation that placed Haruto in the most perilous role. Princess Philia confronts Yohei Namba, explaining that with the kingdom's elite guard assigned to the front, Haruto Tutsui is the logical choice for the vanguard. She pointedly asks Namba if he would be comfortable with a dangerous freak who can tame humans watching his back, causing his expression to harden with shock and realization. Meanwhile, Haruto apologizes to Mina and Karen, feeling guilty that they are stuck in the dangerous front position because of their association with him. Karen dismisses his concern, stating she wouldn't want to team up with anyone else, while Mina firmly adds that as is familiar, this is exactly where she belongs. His friend's reassurance does little to quell the tension as the group stands before the dungeon's dark entrance. Haruto notices Namba's hesitation and asks if something is wrong. Namba deflects, turning the question back on Haruto and asking if he's the one getting cold feet. Their tense exchange is cut short as a horrifying swarm of monsters erupts from the cavern's depths. A cacophony of screeches fills the air as winged beasts and a large, horned creature charge toward the students, who react with cries of alarm. As the horde surges forward, Mina steps up without hesitation. She thrusts her hands forward and unleashes a torrent of magic, shouting for a firewall to intercept the monstrous wave. Her spell proves effective. The other classmates, demonstrating the prowess expected of heroes, handle the remaining monsters without issue. The first stage of the dungeon raid proceeds smoothly, and the group stands together, victorious over the initial assault. With the initial threat neutralized, the party ventures deeper into the dungeon. They soon arrive before a large, ornate archway framing a swirling, dark portal. An older guide accompanying the students announces that this is the gate to the lower floors. He advises them to take a break, warning that the monsters ahead will be much stronger. As the others process this, Princess Philia gazes at the ominous portal with a deeply worried expression. Deep within the dungeon, the adventuring party takes a moment to recover. Spread out on blankets, the exhaustion is palpable on every face. Haruto Tutsui observes the scene, noting that everyone is worn out, a sentiment Mina Mochizuki quietly affirms. He turns his attention specifically to his friends, asking Mina if she is okay. His gaze then shifts to Karen Hino, who is resting nearby, prompting him to ask about her condition as well. Mina hesitantly confirms that she supposes she is fine. She then admits her exhaustion, bluntly asking to borrow his lap for a pillow. Startled by the request, Haruto suggests that she and Karen could use their tamed beast, Rai, as a pillow instead. In response to his suggestion, Karen loudly objects, declaring that Rai-chan is for one person only as she possessively hugs the creature. Mina watches with a tired, unamused expression while Haruto looks on. He sighs in resignation, agreeing to Mina's request. Taking this as her cue, Mina then leans in extremely close, her face just inches from his, creating a sudden, heart-pounding tension between them. Just as quickly, she pulls back with a sharp movement, announcing that she was only joking. With her eyes closed, she adds that even if she has been tamed, she still has her boundaries, leaving Haruto looking surprised. Her sudden reversal leaves her flustered, and she quickly backpedals, stammering that she supposes it would be okay after all. From their resting spots, Karen wonders aloud if it would be acceptable if they were alone, while Haruto points out that they are in public. The reminder sends Mina into a spiral of panic. She inwardly berates herself for blowing the moment, lamenting her inability to act naturally. She questions why she is always like this, her thoughts racing with regret. Her visible distress catches Haruto's attention. He leans closer, his voice filled with genuine concern as he asks if she is all right. Startled, Mina insists she is fine, but he presses on, noting that she looked pale. His words trigger a fond memory. Mina's expression softens as she recalls a time long ago when he showed the same care, realizing with a gentle smile that he remembered. Karen proudly presents a custom potion she has created. She explains that it's designed to restore both mind and body while reducing physical damage. Haruto, however, recoils slightly, his expression filled with skepticism as he recalls the many failed concoctions she made him test in the past. To ease his worries, Princess Philia steps in, using her appraisal skill. She confirms that the potion's effects are exactly as Karen described. Relieved, Karen suggests it must have great synergy with compounding, while Haruto looks on, acknowledging the usefulness of the princess's ability. With their doubts assuaged, the students drink the recovery potion. The results are instantaneous. Namba shouts in amazement, feeling more invigorated than ever. As Karen smiles, pleased with her success, a hooded figure approaches Namba, asking for the item that His Highness had given him. He obliges, handing over a small, spherical device. The hooded man takes it and announces, "Now, let us begin." The sphere in his hand immediately begins to glow, startling Namba, who demands to know what it is as the others look on in confusion. As the light intensifies, a horrifying realization dawns on Namba. He recognizes it as a teleportation trap and questions the identity of the man before him. The hooded man calmly instructs him to throw the device away before it activates. Panicked, Namba hurls the glowing orb away from himself. The man watches this unfold with a subtle, knowing smirk. The activated trap soars through the air, heading directly for Haruto, who looks up in wide-eyed shock. He catches the sphere. In the next instant, his face contorts into a wide, sinister grin, an expression utterly alien to him. His friends can only stare, bewildered by his sudden, terrifying transformation. He cries out in agony, the strange device fused to his hand. The pain is immense, and he realizes with horror that he can't let it go. As his friends call his name in panic, he grits his teeth and roars for both of them to get back. But his warning comes too late. Mina and Karen grab onto his arms, refusing to abandon him as a powerful force begins to pull them all inward. He curses in frustration, his face contorted with desperation. Mina meets his gaze with fierce loyalty, reminding him that she is his familiar and will not let him go alone. Karen, however, voices a grim reality. It's already too late for any of them. Her words prove prophetic as the device unleashes a violent vortex of swirling energy. The maelstrom engulfs Haruto, Mina, and Karen completely, its pull so strong that even the beast rise caught in its grasp, letting out a desperate cry. In an instant, the chaotic energy vanishes, leaving behind a stunned silence. Where the three students stood, there is now only empty space. The others can only stare in shock at the spot, the small spherical trap now lying inert on the ground. A sharp crack sounds as a fracture appears on the device's surface. In the quiet aftermath, Rai's voice calls out in distress from Master Haruto, Lady Karen, and Lady Mina, his words echoing unanswered. A memory surfaces, a tense, silent exchange between Haruto and Mina, their expressions filled with unspoken concern. The memory fades as Karen's voice cuts through his daze, calling his name twice while Mina looks on with a grim, steady gaze. Her cries finally break through his stupor, grounding him in the disorienting present. He finds himself on a cold floor, clad in a strange cloak, with Mina and Karen beside him and Rai standing nearby. He pushes himself up, taking in their new, bizarre surroundings. A vast, sterile chamber made of countless identical blocks. He wonders aloud where they are, unable to find an exit. He speculates they were warped to a basement level, recognizing the mana in the air as similar to the royal tombs, and concludes they were caught in a trap. As Rai nudges him, he expresses a small measure of relief that they weren't sent to some completely unknown dimension. As he processes their situation, his gaze falls upon Karen, noticing her glasses are gone. She looks away, flustered, admitting that he noticed. When he asks, she confesses they're just fake glasses she doesn't really need. He can only react with surprise, calling her a weirdo for hiding such a pretty face. His comment is cut short by a sound from beside them. Mina begins to stir. He calls out her name as she slowly opens her eyes, greeting them with a simple, dazed morning. She sits up, her initial relief that everyone is okay giving way to fear as she takes in a strange environment. She asks where they are and voices her worry that rescue won't come if they're too deep. Haruto confirms they are likely in the lower levels of the royal tomb, explaining that they are mostly unharmed thanks to Karen's medicine. His hesitant tone prompts Mina to press him for the truth. Haruto's face darkens as he delivers the grim news. Rescue probably isn't coming. A memory flashes in his mind of the moment the trap was sprung. Yohei Namba, laughing alongside the man he now identifies as the captain of the guard. The weight of his words, the confirmation of betrayal by their own allies, lands upon Karen and Mina. Their eyes widen in unison, reflecting pure shock and disbelief. She voiced the question weighing on all of them, asking why they would be targeted. Haruto, his head bowed, reasoned that since the royal guard reports directly to Prince Rosius, the prince himself must be their enemy. Nearby, Mina quietly wondered if this was all her fault. The horrifying realization struck her with full force. Her eyes widened in terror as she concluded it was all because she had turned down the prince's invitation. He refused to let her take the blame, grabbing her shoulders and shouting that it wasn't her fault. He explained that his tame skill, capable of affecting humans, was seen as a threat. As he held her, Mina cried out in alarm, pointing to his hand, which was now bleeding from the force of his own grip. She immediately tended to the wound, carefully wrapping a bandage around his bleeding knuckles. With the immediate crisis averted, she quietly asked what their next move should be. He answered her, explaining that even if they escaped, they couldn't return to the castle with the prince as their enemy. Believing he was the sole target, he urged the two of them to go back and report that he had died. Both Karen and Mina flatly refused his proposal. Unfazed, Haruto mused that if they were to flee to another country, his tame skill was powerful enough that he could perhaps start a zoo. Taking his suggestion seriously, Karen declared that she was coming too and would even help with the zoo. Mina was even more resolute, reminding him that as his familiar, she had every right to follow him. She confessed that she would rather die there with him than face a miserable, lonely life by returning alone. Haruto, taken aback, pleaded with her not to say such things. Their unity decided. They surveyed the vast, pillar-filled chamber. Haruto observed that while they had enough food for a few days, he couldn't see an exit. His assessment was cut short when Rai suddenly growled, its head snapping towards an unseen presence. Haruto turned, alerted by his companion's reaction. Before he could react, a figure burst from the shadows. A tall, humanoid creature with vicious claws slashed at Rai, the force of the blow sending the large feline crashing to the ground. The attacker stood revealed, a massive, bandaged monster looming over the downed Rai. As Haruto stared in shock, Karen prepared to cast a spell. He quickly stopped her, his expression hardening with resolve as he declared that he would be the one to fight. He braced himself as the bandaged creature lunged, its massive jaws snapping shut just inches from his face. From behind, Mina screamed his name in terror. Instead of dodging, he held his ground, a new resolve in his eyes. This was the moment. There was something he had been wanting to try. As he thrust his hand forward, a brilliant, intricate magic circle erupted in the space between him and the beast. With a powerful voice, he uttered a single command, "Tame." The circle of light shot forward like a projectile, slamming into the creature with a thunderous crash that echoed through the chamber. When the light faded, the hulking monster had vanished. A small, white, canine-like creature now stood in its place, its bandages gone. It let out a soft cry and gently nudged Haruto's leg, its aggression completely gone. He stared down at his new companion in disbelief. The newly tamed creature affectionately nuzzles Haruto. He realizes it must have sensed Mina's immense mana and chose submission over conflict. Standing with his companions, he can feel a surge of power emanating from everyone present. He considers the symbiotic relationship between a tamer and their familiars. The tamer's strength grows with the familiar's abilities, and the familiar's power increases with the tamer's. He assesses this new creature to be nearly as strong as Mina, making it a tremendous asset, second only to Logus within the kingdom. With this new power secured, the group's attention turns to a more practical matter. Karen expresses her jealousy, wishing Haruto would tame her as well. Mina asks what he plans to name their new companion, prompting Karen to remark that its large, fluffy appearance reminds her of a golden retriever she once had. Taking her suggestion, albeit lazily, he settles on a name, Redo. The creature barks in apparent approval. Haruto then directs Redo toward a dark, swirling passage, asking if it can widen the opening. When the creature whines, unable to comply, Haruto resigns himself to squeezing through. But as they prepare to proceed, the ground beneath them begins to shake violently. Mina cries out in alarm as the entire group is thrown into disarray. The violent tremor intensifies as massive, sharp pillars of earth suddenly erupt from the dungeon floor, trapping them in a deadly cage. When the chaos subsides, the reason for the ambush becomes clear. They're surrounded by a large pack of creatures identical to Redo. Haruto realizes this must be Redo's pack, and he was their leader. Mina asks if he intends to tame them all, and he resolves to try. Resolved, he wastes no time. Extending his hands, Haruto unleashes his power, causing a vast, intricate magical circle to blaze across the ground before the entire pack as he invokes the taming command. The sheer scale of the spell takes its toll. Haruto stumbles, drained, but Mina rushes to support him. He reassures her that he only overexerted his mana, then immediately asks if she felt her own power increase as a result. She confirms his theory, explaining that his own mana now feels much easier for her to control. As she speaks, a physical manifestation of this newfound power appears in her hand, a complex, crown-like construct of pure, sparkling energy. She calls out his name, Haruto. He turns, startled, as she suggests that he might have gained some new skills from the mass taming. He closes his eyes, taking a moment to process the changes. My sense of smell is sharper, he observes, and Mina looks on, intrigued by this development. He realizes that Redo's abilities must have been reflected onto him. With a newfound power, he can now see through the dungeon walls, perceiving the form of a creature in another corridor. He muses that this will make clearing the dungeon a breeze. His comment provokes an immediate, fierce reaction from Mina. She whirls around, shielding Karen's eyes, and shouting at him not to look, accusing him of being a pervert. Flustered, Haruto insists it's a misunderstanding, explaining that his seeing-through ability is more like a thermograph, and that he can turn it off. He apologizes, and though still blushing, Mina confirms she's fine. As the group continues, Karen analyzes the situation. She points out that since this world lacks the concept of experience points or levels, Haruto and his familiars will simply continue to grow stronger indefinitely. She concludes that gaining skills on top of raw power is a total growth cheat. The implication of this continuous growth dawns on Mina with a sudden jolt. Her face flushes as she exclaims that if these familiars start having pups, their collective power will grow exponentially. Now standing amidst the massive pack of tamed creatures, all awaiting his command, Haruto turns to his companions and asks which way they should proceed. She consults a map, noting that they are in a rank 7 dungeon, a place untouched by humanity. She warns that who knows what dangers might lie on the lower floors. Mina then asks if there isn't a mechanism at the very bottom that leads directly to an exit. Karen considers this, suggesting that since they aren't in a rush, they could simply head back to the entrance. Haruto counters, pointing out that they're already quite deep within the dungeon. He reasons that if there are more powerful monsters like Reto ahead, it might be faster to aim for the bottom. His expression hardens with resolve. No, he declares, his voice firm, let's aim to conquer it. His friends look on, surprised by his sudden, decisive ambition. He turned to face his assembled companions, Mina, Karen, Rai, and the pack of wolf-like creatures. Acknowledging the immense challenge ahead, he asked if they were truly prepared to follow him down such a dangerous road. In the tense silence that followed, both Mina and Karen's expressions hardened with resolve. He watched them, a single bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple as he awaited their response. Karen was the first to break the silence, affirming her loyalty without hesitation. As his familiar, her place was with him. Mina followed, her voice filled with conviction, insisting she would not be left behind and would stay with him until the very end. Hearing their unwavering support, Haruto's uncertainty vanished. With their resolve solidified, he let out a powerful cry, rallying them all with a single command. Let's conquer this dungeon. In an instant, the entire group surged forward, a united front charging deeper into the labyrinth. Under the light of a full moon, a gloved hand sets down a teacup in a lavish room overlooking the city. A voice from off-panel congratulates Yohei Namba, telling him he did a fine job. In response, Namba slams his hands on the long table between them, his posture radiating frustration. He shouts, demanding to know if the other person even realizes the kind of mess he is now in. He elaborates on his predicament, his face twisted in a grimace. He complains that everyone at school is looking at him like a murderer, blaming him for making Tutsui and the others vanish. Across the table, Sho calmly adjusts his glasses, his expression unreadable. He states his deduction plainly. Everything that occurred on the day of the expedition was a setup. The person he addresses is revealed to be Prince Logus, who sips his tea with a serene smile. Unfazed, the prince asks Sho why he is being told this. Logus then turns his attention to Namba, calling him the hero who granted his classmates their freedom. Namba smirks, questioning the word freedom, as Sho listens silently. Sho presses the prince, asking if Tutsui was the reason they were all under house arrest. Logus confirms it, stating they couldn't let a dangerous hero capable of taming humans roam free, and because of his removal, they are all now free to go outside. Their eyes lock in a tense moment. Sho's gaze narrows as he asks if dragging Mochizuki and the others into the plot was also part of the plan. The prince's expression shifts slightly. He answers with a simple no, but then quickly dismisses the concern, adding that he supposes it doesn't matter. He continues, mentioning that his kind-hearted sister, Philia, was devastated by the disappearance. Sho, however, is unmoved. He internally notes that Mina was too influenced by the taming and Karen lacked skills, silently condemning the prince's cold logic. He watched as Prince Logus, with a cruel smile, lifted a piece of food on his fork. The prince declared that the lives of heroes who aren't useful to the kingdom carry very little weight, dismissing them all as mere outsiders. His words caused Namba's hand to clench into a fist. Namba voiced the chilling implication, asking if this meant they had to prove their worth to avoid Tutsui's fate. He then questioned if Tutsui and the others were truly dead. Before the prince could respond, Sho interjected, pointing out that they had only seen the group vanish. He wondered aloud if it was possible they were still alive, but Logus calmly took a sip from his cup and dismissed the idea as impossible. He then explained the cruel magic tool that had been used. It was designed to measure a target's power and then warp them to a floor within the dungeon, where survival was guaranteed to be impossible. The prince continued his assessment, noting that the dungeon, the royal tomb, had 25 floors. For Haruto's group, he calculated they would have been sent to the 15th floor, or perhaps even deeper, below the 20th. He elaborated on the dungeon's brutal difficulty curve. From the 7th floor down, monsters grew 30% stronger with each level. Recalling that Haruto's tamed beast was from the 7th floor, he mused that on the 20th floor, the creatures they'd face would be monstrously powerful. The calculation horrified Sho, who realized the monsters would be 30 times stronger. He argued that Tutsui's tame skill and his familiar might give him a chance, but Logus merely laughed, stating that survival was impossible against countless foes. The prince added that the tame skill is useless when the power gap is too vast. At this, Namba told Sho there was nothing to worry about. Sho, seemingly accepting the grim logic, covered his mouth and conceded the point. But deep within the dungeon, Haruto, Mina, and Karen stood resolute. Alongside a new wolf-like companion, they faced a teeming horde of monsters, surrounded but unbroken. Within the dark, cavernous dungeon, Karen Hino looks over the massive horde of creatures following Haruto, remarking on the sheer number of familiars he has now acquired. Haruto, however, seems unconvinced by their progress, thoughtfully noting that they have only cleared about 3 floors. Mina stands beside him, sensing his unease and asking him what is wrong. He continues his internal assessment, gazing at the monstrous army he commands. He realizes that, in terms of raw statistics, these creatures were individually stronger than his own party was when they first entered the dungeon. He voices this observation, finding it strange that Rai, Redo, and even Mina have grown stronger since being tamed. Karen listens, processing the information and concluding that the buffs from his taming ability must not be consistent. She offers a theory, pointing out that Haruto gave names to Rai and Redo, suggesting this difference in bond is the source of their increased growth. As she speaks, a sudden realization dawns on her. Her hypothesis solidifies as she questions how else one could explain Mina receiving the most significant buff of all. A flustered Mina denies getting stronger, but Karen calmly insists she has. Haruto, meanwhile, seems unconcerned with the mechanics, stating that as long as they're all improving, it doesn't matter, and that his own strength increase is only natural as the tamer. Putting the discussion aside, the core group, Haruto, Mina, Karen, Rai, and Redo, presses onward. They arrive before a massive, imposing gate, sensing they are finally reaching a climactic point in the dungeon. As he stares at the ornate doors, Haruto recalls information from dungeon records. He realizes with a jolt that this must be the boss room that stands before the final floor. Mina feels an incredible power radiating from beyond the gate. Sensing the danger, Karen suggests they should leave the lower-level familiars behind. Haruto agrees, stating he doesn't want any unnecessary casualties. In response to this decision, Megumi erupts in protest. Surrounded by the other familiars being left behind, she wails about what a letdown it is, bizarrely shouting that she had wanted to become a craft. Seeing Haruto's hesitation, Karen Hino steps forward, grabbing his cloak to get his attention. She quickly reassures him that she was only kidding about her earlier bravado, but insists that she will find a way to be helpful to the team. To prove her point, she presents him with several large flasks. She explains that she crafted these potions from the rare materials they've gathered, creating concoctions that boost health, defense, mental stability, strength, mana, and more. With a determined look, she urges him to drink up, and he agrees. She presses one of the potions into his hands, her gaze intense as she reminds him that fighting isn't the only way to be a valuable member of the party. Taken aback by her earnestness, Haruto can only agree. Moments later, he and Mina are charging forward at full speed, each mounted on a large feline beast. As they race through the dungeon, Haruto uncorks the flask and offers a word of thanks for the support. He takes a large gulp of the potion, immediately grimacing. He notes its awful taste, a sentiment Mina seems to share as she drinks her own portion beside it. Despite the foul flavor, a confident smile spreads across his face. He can feel the power surging through him, certain that the potion will grant him the strength he needs for the coming battle. Their rapid advance brings a new landmark into view, a massive, conical mountain. Its peak smoking like an active volcano looms in the distance. In an instant, the scenery warps around them. The stone corridors of the dungeon vanish, replaced by a barren, rocky wasteland at the foot of the volcano. The sudden, jarring teleportation leaves the group stunned and confused. Haruto and Mina stare wide-eyed at their new surroundings, their minds struggling to comprehend what just happened. The abrupt shift in environment has caught them completely by surprise. Before they can even react, the ground before them erupts violently. Earth and rock are thrown into the air as a massive, unseen threat bursts forth from beneath the surface, launching an immediate ambush. He and Mina stared up in disbelief as the ground shattered before them. Erupting from the earth was a colossal beast, its head thrown back in a deafening roar that shook the very air. Its powerful, scaled body dwarfed them completely. The realization struck Haruto with the force of a physical blow. It was a dragon. At the bottom of the dungeon, a massive, ornate gate looms. The group suddenly realizes Haruto has vanished from their side. Mina, her face etched with worry, calls out his name. From ahead, Haruto's voice rings out, checking if Mina, Rai, and Redo are alright. He then sprints forward with fierce determination, shouting his intent to tame the colossal beast before him. The dragon responds with a deafening roar, unleashing a powerful shockwave that sends the other students flying back in chaos. The force of the blast slams into Mina and her feline mount, sending them tumbling violently through the air. Taking cover, Haruto and Mina stare in disbelief at the creature's overwhelming power. Haruto realizes with a shock what they are facing, a dragon. He turns to the others, declaring his plan to try taming it again, despite the previous failure. He asks them to buy him some time. Mina begins to protest, but he looks at her with a desperate plea. In the distance, the dragon recoils from an attack. In response to his plea, Mina and her mount charge forward, shouting to draw the dragon's attention away from Haruto. The beast takes the bait, snapping its massive jaws at them as they narrowly evade the attack. As she maneuvers, Mina reflects on her past. She always used to rely on Haruto, which frustrated her. Now, for the first time, he is relying on her. This realization fills her with resolve. Determined to be of use, she invokes a new power, Fire Scale. Her mount is instantly engulfed in blazing, fiery scales. "Dragon Warm," she cries, feeling an immense power surging through her. At the same moment, Haruto's hand begins to glow as he feels a corresponding surge of energy. "Nice, Mina," he exclaims, recognizing her crucial support. He stood before a colossal, glowing magic circle, his arms outstretched as he attempted to tame the great beast. Within the dragon's immense eye, his determined form was reflected, a lone figure against overwhelming power as a great roar echoed around him. His consciousness was suddenly pulled into a dark, empty void. Disoriented, he wondered where he was. A powerful voice resonated from the darkness, identifying his taming attempt as a contract. The voice noted that he was not trying to force servitude, but rather seeking to negotiate. In response, Haruto's face hardened with resolve. He declared that he possessed a powerful wish. The immense presence in the void mused that destiny was a strange thing. It then issued a challenge. If Haruto could grant its wish, he must prove it. A bead of sweat ran down his face as he realized the dragon possessed a profound intelligence. As he grappled with this revelation, Mina watched in the physical world as the colossal dragon suddenly dematerialized, vanishing completely. Startled by the abrupt disappearance, Haruto called out her name. The danger having passed, the group found themselves back at the dungeon's entrance. Mina, relieved, thanked Haruto and declared the battle over. He, however, looked back at her with confusion, asking what she meant. His uncertainty was replaced by a firm resolve. Standing beside Mina before a newly opened, brightly lit gateway, he gave the command, "Let's go." Together with their companions, they prepared to step into the unknown. Haruto, Mina, and Megumi arrive in a vast, ornate chamber, recognizing it as the bottom floor of the dungeon. As Haruto and Mina take in the grand architecture, Megumi's eyes sparkle with excitement as she wonders aloud if there is any treasure to be found. Her excitement abruptly turns to terror. With a sharp cry, she grabs onto Haruto's cloak, startling him. He whirls around, demanding to know what's wrong, completely caught off guard by her sudden panic. Before them on a massive throne sits a colossal, draconic creature, its form both regal and menacing. A large, horned skull rests by its side. The being's voice, deep and resonant, fills the chamber, acknowledging their presence. "So, you have come, heroes." Haruto instantly recognizes this as the true form of the dragon they had just fought. Megumi, however, identifies the creature from her studies as Mephiris, the holy dragon, famed for stopping a past calamity. She questions why such a revered being would be here, only for Mephiris to fix them with a glare and declare that it is the fault of heroes like them. The dragon's accusation hangs in the air as she reveals that she was sealed in this very land by a hero of the past. The revelation strikes the three students dumb, their expressions frozen in shock. Megumi voices their collective confusion, asking why a hero would imprison a being meant to fight the calamity. Mephiris explains that her power has waned over the long years of her imprisonment, which is why she could only manifest the weaker, illusory form they previously encountered. She adds that, despite this, many heroes have been summoned for that very purpose. She continues, revealing a grim history. The calamity has only struck 3 times in the last millennium, yet heroes are summoned endlessly. Without a true calamity to face, some of these summoned heroes, ignorant of the summoner's true motives, began to persecute innocent beings, mislabeling them as the threat. Megumi listens, horrified, realizing Mephiris is just one of their victims. The truth settles heavily upon Haruto. He clenches his fist as the pieces fall into place. If they've been lied to about the calamity, then the prince and the entire kingdom are their enemies. He knows he needs power to confront them. His friends agree, acknowledging how vague the promise of their return home has always been. His resolve hardening, Haruto turns back to the sealed dragon and announces his intention to act. Megumi protests, reminding him of the difficulty they faced against the mere illusion. Unwavering, Haruto states that he can do it because he made a promise. He steps forward, placing a hand on the crystalline prison. Cracks instantly spiderweb from his touch. Mephiris watches, her eyes wide with disbelief, as she asks if he truly intends to break her seal. She watched as the students conferred amongst themselves. The buff she had granted was potent, but it was not enough. Megumi anxiously asked Haruto if he knew how to break the seal, but he admitted his ignorance. Seeing his hesitation, Mina declared the situation was not good. His admission prompted a low, guttural sound from the great beast as she lifted her head. The intimidating noise sent a wave of fear through Mina, her eyes widening in terror. She cried out his name in panic, her voice trembling as she stared at the imposing dragon. The immense power flowing into him proved too much, and Haruto suddenly collapsed. Mephiris explained calmly that her power was so immense it had knocked him unconscious. Mina and Megumi rushed to his side, asking if he was all right as he groaned. Megumi quickly offered him some restorative medicine. As he recovered, Mina remained by his side, watching with concern. Mephiris commented that he must have gained great power thanks to her. Haruto looked at his own hand, acknowledging the incredible surge of energy coursing through him, but a sense of doubt lingered. He turned to the sealed dragon and apologized, admitting he still lacked the strength to free her. Mephiris reassured him that there was still a chance, explaining that her power would grow in tandem with his. She urged him to become stronger, and when he questioned how, she revealed she knew of a perfect place for him to go. She directed him towards a place called Paradise. It was a dungeon, she explained, a place where powerful monsters gathered, making it the perfect location for him to train and grow stronger. The dragon continued, revealing the dungeon's true significance. Paradise was a rank 9 dungeon, and within its deepest reaches lay the sealed Archfiend, the very calamity from 2 centuries past. The students stared, utterly shocked by this revelation. Still reeling, they questioned the terms rank 9 and calamity. From her sealed position, Mephiras clarified, stating her belief that humans ranked dungeons on a scale from 1 to 10. The Holy Dragon's words sent Haruto into a panic. He cried out, demanding to know how the seal could be breaking, his mind fixated on the dire consequence. If the Archfiend is released, the continent will face total destruction once again. She explained that a magic tool designed to attract monsters is hidden beneath the Archfiend's seal. Normally, the gathered creatures would drain its mana and weaken it. Instead, the Archfiend has begun to drain the mana from the monsters to store its own power. At this rate, she warned, the seal will soon be destroyed. He seized on this information, suggesting they should go retrieve the magic tool. The dragon flatly rejected the idea. There wasn't a chance, she stated, as he was far too weak. She then presented an alternative, noting that their current, meager equipment was unreliable. With a gesture, she commanded them to take what she offered. Her offer of new equipment stunned Haruto, Mina, and Megumi into silence, their eyes wide with disbelief and awe. Now clad in powerful new adventuring gear, the trio stands ready. Haruto takes the lead, flanked by his determined friends, as the Holy Dragon's voice booms, sending them off on their quest and anointing them as heroes. Within a dungeon, Yohei Namba stands over the remains of defeated monsters, his sword planted in a creature's skull. He scoffs that his foes are far too weak. From the back of the chamber, Sho calls out to him, suggesting they take a break as the others are exhausted. Yohei dismisses the concern, intent on clearing the dungeon without delay. His group is then shown in a different cavern, facing a colossal, turtle-like beast. It is explained that as elite heroes, they have been tasked with challenging a higher difficulty, an unmapped rank 5 dungeon. Sho, his hand near his mouth in apprehension, questions the sudden escalation, asking if they are certain about the dungeon's rank. He is immediately rebuked by Yohei, who calls him a chicken and insists everything will be fine, as the kingdom will provide maximum support. Yohei declares that clearing this dungeon is their chance to show the world the power of the heroes, making their names known across the continent. As he speaks, the massive creature's maw begins to open, and Sho realizes the true danger they face. The creature's jaw gapes wide, revealing rows of terrifying teeth. Faced with the immense threat, Sho steels himself, acknowledging that they have no choice but to fight. Their female companion observes them, thinking to herself that Yohei's strength grows daily while someone named Kakeru's future sight lasts longer. She believes he must have foreseen this situation. Yohei, smirking confidently, tells them to leave it to him and Sho, asserting that the two of them are in a league of their own. The scene shifts to a view of a bustling port city, overshadowed by a colossal, dark structure on a distant mountain. Yohei's face appears in an overlay, declaring that if there is a calamity within, he will crush it. Below, Haruto, Mina, and Megumi gaze at the sight, with Megumi letting out an excited yell. They walk through the lively streets of the town. Haruto identifies it as Cask, the settlement at the foot of the dungeon known as Paradise. Megumi observes that it's bustling with adventurers hoping to strike it rich inside. Her imagination runs wild, picturing heaps of treasure guarded by a dragon. She remarks that she can see why people would risk their lives for such incredible rewards. Haruto then explains their mission, referencing a map of Paradise. He notes that it's a single-floor dungeon where monsters get stronger closer to the demon at the end, making it a perfect place to test their skills. However, he clarifies their true goal. They're only going to the deepest level to weaken the demon and recover artifacts that will reinforce its seal. Filled with resolve, Megumi agrees enthusiastically. Haruto and Mina express their own confidence, noting that their new gear has made them much stronger. As they prepare to proceed, an unseen person calls out, asking if they are adventurers. The person who stopped Haruto and his companions is a cheerful young woman in a maid's uniform. She asks if they need a place to stay, and Mina suggests they talk to her. The woman introduces herself as Lisa and enthusiastically recommends the kurie, offering a discount and an extra dish for dinner to entice them. Her sales pitch works, and Lisa happily declares it's settled for 3 guests, which confuses Haruto. Mina notices Karen seems troubled, but before she can inquire further, Mina herself gasps, her face flushing bright red. Completely baffled, Haruto bluntly asks if she's a closet pervert, prompting a flustered denial from Karen. Following Lisa, the group arrives at the Kurii, a respectable-looking 2-story building. As they walk towards it, Mina is still reeling from Haruto's words, the accusation of being a closet pervert echoing in her thoughts. Inside, their guide leads them to their room. With a grand flourish, she announces that there is only one room left available in the entire inn. The room itself contains only 2 beds. The revelation leaves the girls stunned. Haruto, still failing to grasp the situation, turns to Mina and again teases her about being a pervert. Lisa apologizes, explaining that they are fully booked. Unconcerned, Haruto points out that since they are all in the same party, he fails to see what the problem is. His oblivious question hangs in the air. Later, the 4 sit at a table in the inn's common area, the lodging situation still unresolved. Haruto lets out an exasperated sigh, frustrated by the awkward complication. Gathered around a circular table in a warm, well-lit room, Haruto and his companions, Mina, Karen, and a new young woman, are presented with an extravagant feast. A maid, Lisa, stands behind Haruto with a welcoming smile, encouraging them all to dig in. The sight of such plentiful food leaves them wide-eyed with shock for a moment before they all begin to eat with gusto, expressing their gratitude for the meal. Overwhelmed by the simple pleasure of a proper meal, Haruto breaks down in tears. Beside him, Mina and Karen watch with expressions of gentle understanding. He recovers and thanks Lisa, remarking that he now understands why her inn is fully booked. She clarifies that the town's current crowding is due to recent excitement. As they talk, Karen chews thoughtfully, commenting on how rough adventurers have it, having recently subsisted on nothing but dry bread. Haruto's words suddenly clarify the situation for his companions. The hero is coming to town. The news shocks Mina and Karen. Lisa confirms it, adding that even the royals are coming. The group realizes with dread that word of them clearing an uncharted dungeon has spread, and now they face the expectation of conquering the dungeon known as Paradise. Mina suggests they leave town, but Karen is resolute. She insists they still have time and must use every moment. Her goal, she explains, is to recover an artifact from the depths of Paradise that is weakening a seal. To do so, they must first grow stronger by taming more monsters. The discussion continues. Haruto questions whether the kingdom even knows about the artifact, and Karen notes that the local populace is certainly unaware that an archdemon is sealed within Paradise. A worried Mina then asks why they can't simply leave the task to the hero's party. Karen expresses her doubt, questioning if the hero's party could even reach the dungeon's bottom. Her greater fear is that they would simply provoke the archdemon needlessly. Mina realizes Karen is specifically thinking of Yohei, the rank 9 adventurer, as the one most likely to cause such a problem. Later, in their room, the strategic talk gives way to a more immediate, awkward issue. Standing before 2 large beds, Mina asks Karen how they should decide on the sleeping arrangements. Back at the table, Mina voices her concern for Rai and the others. Haruto reassures her, showing a vision of Rai and Reto sleeping peacefully in a nearby forest where he has them on standby. He explains that while he can sense they are safe, a benefit of being a tamer, he cannot know their exact actions. Karen remarks on how desirable such a power must be for any parent. He surveyed the room, noting the 2 beds available for the 3 of them. Mina voiced her concern over the predicament, but he quickly offered a solution. He would sleep on the floor, leaving the beds for her and Karen. His companions immediately rejected the idea. Karen was adamant, stating that as the core of the party, Haruto needed proper rest. Mina firmly agreed, declaring it was absolutely not an option. Faced with their united front, he felt a sense of defeat, realizing he could not possibly win an argument against the 2 of them. The debate then shifted. Karen volunteered to take the floor, arguing that she was physically tougher. Mina immediately countered, insisting she would sleep on the floor since she could rest during combat anyway. He tried to interject, pointing out that, by their own logic, he should be the one on the floor. In perfect unison, both women shouted him down, demanding that he listen. Their argument continued, with Mina insisting Karen needed a bed for her precise alchemy, and Karen retorting that Mina, as a familiar, should have one. As he worried they would argue until sunrise, an idea suddenly struck him. He presented his solution. If they pushed the beds together, there would be enough room for all 3. To his complete astonishment, both Mina and Karen eagerly agreed as night fell outside. The plan was executed. He now lay rigidly in the middle of the combined beds, with Mina on one side and Karen on the other, all 3 staring up at the ceiling in silence. Breaking the quiet, he wondered aloud if they could actually sleep like this. A flustered Karen told him to be quiet, insisting they could. Mina, however, admitted to being nervous and asked if her heartbeat was too loud. He thought to himself that it was indeed loud. A powerful thumping filled the air, and he couldn't tell if the frantic heartbeat was his own or if it belonged to one of the girls beside him. He lies rigid in the dark, his eyes wide with shock as a hand beside him clenches the bedding in a tight, frustrated grip. The source of the tension becomes clear as the girls argue. With a sly grin, Mina tells Karen to come over a bit more, reassuring her that it's fine since she's smaller and can make room for Haruto. Karen, however, glares back, insisting that Mina is crowding her and has moved too far over. Caught in their crossfire, Haruto stares ahead in silent panic. Karen pleads with him, saying he knows better, while Mina casually encourages him to just use the space efficiently. His name is whispered from both sides, their faces uncomfortably close in the darkness. The proximity is overwhelming. His face flushes as he internally screams, questioning the cruel twist of fate that forced him into the middle position. He curses his terrible luck. A simple game of rock, paper, scissors had sealed his fate. The loser had to sleep in the middle. And so, inside the quiet building, the long, tense night wore on. Inside an inn, Haruto Tutsui sits up in bed, flanked by Megumi and another young woman. The morning light streams into their shared room. He lets out a weary sigh, a look of exasperation on his face, while his companions on either side appear slightly abashed. Later, clad in adventuring gear, the trio makes their way along a path through a dense forest with massive, pale-bark trees. As they walk, Megumi wonders aloud where Rai and the others are. Haruto explains that he just called for them, clarifying that if he calls out in his mind, his familiars will respond. He notes that the connection doesn't work if they're too far away. The other girl is amazed that he can hear his familiars' thoughts. Just as Haruto assures them they aren't far, he senses their approach. In response to his call, not just Rai, but an entire horde of monstrous creatures thunders towards them through the trees. The two girls cry out in alarm at the overwhelming sight. Megumi shouts, asking if this isn't far too many. Haruto observes the creatures, realizing they want to get stronger by being tamed by him. His other companion worries that such a large group will attract a subjugation squad from the town, but Haruto agrees, a determined look on his face as he raises a hand. He unleashes his power, repeatedly commanding the horde to tame. The force of his will radiates outwards, striking the assembled monsters. His command washes over the entire clearing, each creature enveloped in the light of his taming skill. With the task complete, Haruto calmly says, "Good work," and then dismisses the newly tamed creatures. They vanish in a flash of light, leaving his companions speechless. However, one creature did not disappear, a formidable white, winged reptile. Haruto turns his attention to it, stating grimly, "There's still one left." He gently placed a taming seal upon the small creature's head. His companions marveled at the sight of a white dragon, especially one so tiny, with one of them exclaiming how cute it was. In response to their awe, he explained that despite its size, this particular creature seemed to hold the most latent power of any he had encountered that day. Realizing it was still a dragon, he decided it needed a name, proposing Lulu. The moment the name was spoken, a brilliant light erupted from Lulu. The small wyvern began to grow at an astonishing rate, its body expanding in a flash. Before he could react, the now enormous Lulu playfully seized him in its jaws. He shouted in protest, demanding to be put down as his friends watched in panic. Instead of releasing him, the wyvern launched into the sky, carrying him on its back. As his friends called out his name from below, he looked down from the clouds, amazed by the breathtaking view of the city stretching out beneath them. Their sudden appearance in the sky did not go unnoticed. From the ground, an intense gaze followed their flight. The feeling of wonder was shattered by a sudden, overwhelming wave of bloodlust. Looking toward its source, Haruto saw a monstrous, horned behemoth rising over the city. In response to the threat, Lulu unleashed a powerful roar. Haruto, Mina, and Megumi arrived before a grand, imposing structure flanked by two enormous, armored statues. The bustling square confirms their location. Megumi looks up in awe, exclaiming that this is the Adventurers Guild. As they approach, they discuss the necessity of registering as adventurers to enter the dungeon. Mina voices her concern that the kingdom might discover them, but Haruto reassures her. He explains that the guild is an independent organization, so they should be safe. Megumi adds that specific details about the heroes haven't been leaked anyway. His expression hardens with resolve. Haruto is glad for the lectures they received at the castle. Without proper registration, the guild would hunt them for trespassing. The urgency of their situation weighs on him. The seal on the great demon could break at any moment. He tells the others they must hurry. Inside, a stern-looking woman behind a counter finishes their paperwork. She announces that the registration for the three of them is complete and slides their newly issued guild cards across the desk. As they walk away, Mina expresses her surprise at how simple the process was, having expected some kind of test. Haruto, however, seems to have anticipated this, stating calmly that a test won't be necessary. The registrar calls out to them, offering a piece of advice. She warns them to be extremely careful if they're heading to a place called Paradise, as high-level monsters have recently begun appearing even on the shallow floors. She then suggests that for detailed information on Paradise, they should consult an information broker. Hearing this, Mina leans in and whispers to Haruto, urging him to hurry so they can recover the magic tools. He quietly agrees. Following the registrar's advice, they find a man who immediately holds up 3 fingers, demanding 3 copper coins. Haruto is taken aback by the upfront fee. The man scoffs, asking if he looks like he's running a charity and clarifying that this is his information fee. His fee established, the broker asks what they wish to know. He offers them a choice, a map of Paradise, intelligence on the monsters within, or even some information about the deep zones. He pauses, sizing up Haruto and Mina with a shrewd gaze. He remarks that they don't look like the type of people that average adventurers could afford to cross. He leaned forward, admitting with a grim finality that he had no information on the deep zones. No one, he explained, had ever made it that far and returned. With a shrewd look, he made them an offer. If they succeeded, he would pay handsomely for the intel they brought back. Leaving the broker's office, the group walked through the bustling city streets. Mina noted that in the end, they hadn't obtained any solid leads and asked if they were heading to Paradise immediately. Haruto considered this, replying that they had at least managed to get a map of the cleared areas. He then confessed that, to be honest, the massive taming session from that morning had completely drained his mana. Stating his desire to be at full strength before they proceeded, he suggested they explore the town for the rest of the day instead. Megumi's face lit up at the idea. She threw her arms wide with excitement, declaring that since they were in another world, they should make some fun memories. Haruto smiled, agreeing that it was a good idea. With their new plans set, the party began to wander through the town. The blonde warrior pointed toward the peculiar shop filled with strange artifacts and skulls, its sign shaped like a stylized cat's head. Inside, Megumi gleefully presented a small, skull-like object to Mina, whose expression soured with unease. In the background, Haruto watched their interaction, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. Their tour of the town's shops continued, the companions browsing through various displays of armor and adventurers' clothing, taking in the sights of their new environment. Walking along another street, Megumi mused that prosperous towns must have access to the best materials. She announced her plan to brew some excellent potions once they returned to their inn. Her blonde companion wondered aloud if that meant the potions would taste better as well. The thought sparked a sudden realization in the warrior. She let out a nervous laugh, struck by the possibility that if Haruto used his taming skill on the ingredients, making them taste better might actually be achievable. Haruto and the others listened, intrigued by the novel idea. Their conversation was interrupted as their eyes fell upon a poster plastered to a brick wall. It advertised a local hot spring, its scenic image capturing the group's full attention. He and his companions arrived at the hot spring, a lush, open-air bath surrounded by ancient trees. On the women's side, Megumi expressed her delight, exclaiming that this was her first time in such a place. The armored girl beside her eagerly agreed. Mina looked on, sharing in their happiness. On the men's side, however, the atmosphere was different. Haruto, already in the water, found himself surrounded by other bathers, including Namba and Sho. The men grilled him with questions, demanding to know where he lived and if he was alone, commenting that they didn't recognize him. The pressure was intense. Stepping towards the steaming water of a natural hot spring, Mina expresses her disbelief and delight. She remarks that it's the best, wondering how many days it has been since she last soaked in a proper tub. As she settles into the spring, she finds Megumi already submerged, her face a mask of pure bliss as she enjoys the soothing warmth. Her blissful expression suddenly vanishes, replaced by wide-eyed shock. Megumi stammers, exclaiming how impressive they are when seen in person. From nearby, Mina calmly asks if Megumi is referring to Karen, speculating that back in their world, Karen must have used a chest binder to avoid standing out. Karen confirms this, explaining that in her old world, she did cosplay and was even a bit famous in that scene. The binder and glasses, she admits, were for hiding her identity. Now, she finds talking about it embarrassing, feeling like a cringy past life. Mina immediately refutes her embarrassment, insisting that it's not like that at all. It's amazing. She declares that being famous for something is respectable. Megumi reflects on this, admitting that if they're talking about surprises, she never would have guessed Karen was a cosplayer. However, she adds that the truly unexpected thing is how open-minded Mina is about it. Her thoughts then shift to Haruto, remarking that he is actually quite dependable. The comment makes Mina blush and quickly stammer that she didn't mean it in a weird way. Across the spring, Haruto relaxes with Namba and Sho. Composing herself, Mina agrees. She elaborates that while he can be rough, his quick decisions made their journey reliable, adding that he has always been that way. She continues her praise, recalling how Haruto was always caring and popular with the neighborhood kids, even spending entire days finding owners for stray cats. She notes that even Lisa grew to like him. This description causes Megumi to react with alarm, blurting out that at this rate, he might end up with some little girl. Her shocked outburst was met with a calm clarification from Mina, who explained that it wasn't just little girls who were interested in Haruto. She noted that even the shop girls had been hitting on him during their outing. Karen added that he seems to have gained some confidence and presence recently. She continued, however, that Haruto is so dense he never noticed any of the attention. Mina agreed with a sigh, lamenting that even if he were popular, his complete obliviousness meant he would never actually get with anyone. Her focus then shifted playfully to Karen. Mina embraced her from behind, assuring her it was okay and that she didn't need to hide her feelings, as they were impossible not to notice. A flustered Karen immediately protested, shouting that she didn't care about that at all. Despite her vehement denial, a deep blush was evident on her face. Seeing this, Mina pressed the issue, looking her friend in the eye and asking directly what she thought of Haruto. The direct question made Karen pause. Her expression shifted from flustered to serious, as she quietly asked if Mina was really being serious. In response, Mina's gaze softened, her expression conveying a gentle sincerity as she affirmed that she was. The serious mood was shattered by Karen's renewed frustration. She insisted that she only liked Haruto as a friend, then launched into a complaint about his denseness. She recounted how, after she got a total makeover, his only reaction to taking off her glasses was to blandly state, "Oh, you took off your glasses." She found his lack of awareness terrible. Her complaint perfectly captured Haruto's nature. Elsewhere, that very obliviousness was on full display. As one man loudly declared there was no way a hopeless guy like him could ever be popular, another leaned in close, asking Haruto to call him if he wanted to meet up. Caught between the insult and the advance, Haruto stood in stunned, silent confusion. In the grand throne room of the Elmond Kingdom, King Hills commends his son, Prince Logus, for the successful conquest of the Shadow Dungeon. Kneeling before the throne, Logus humbly credits the victory to the heroes. The king reflects on the three heroes of the conquest squad, Yohei, Kakeru, and Megumi, acknowledging their power is already among the continent's greatest. He declares that they must be rewarded appropriately as the current calamity continues to unfold. Princess Philia voices her concern, suggesting that keeping the heroes without an obvious threat will invite criticism of military expansion from other nations. Logus assures her they have already investigated this possibility. He then makes a grave announcement to the court. The seal on the archdemon from 200 years ago is on the verge of breaking. The king is shocked by this revelation, questioning if it's truly the archdemon and recalling the catastrophic damage it caused in the past. Logus confirms the seal is indeed failing after 2 centuries. He adds that while its location was lost to history, they have now found it. The king advises caution, warning Logus of his tendency to rush, but the prince internally dismisses his father's words as the usual cowardice. His resolve hardening, he declares his intention to immediately prepare their forces to slay the archdemon. As he turns to act, Princess Philia's voice cuts through the hall, telling him to wait. He pauses, glancing back with a questioning look. She challenges his plan, asking if he means to break the seal himself. The king intervenes, ordering Logus to limit his actions to strengthening the seal. Logus argues that they must strike while their forces are ready, as they cannot summon heroes frequently. He then delivers a stark rebuttal. Resealing the creature is impossible. He explains that one of the heroes is currently in no condition to use her powers. Philia immediately demands to know why, reminding him that the Shadow Squad was comprised of 80 elite soldiers in addition to the heroes. The unspoken reason hangs heavy in the air, underscored by the memory of the dungeon's toll. Of those 80 soldiers, only 55 return. The king remarks dismissively that the heroes are delicate, a natural consequence of coming from a peaceful world. Both Logus and Philia react with sharp, displeased expressions at their father's comment. Suddenly, a new voice addresses the room. A figure named Victo enters, confirming they are feeling better and have been listening to the meeting. Victo states that their timing is perfect and offers an opinion on the archdemon, agreeing with the king that they should focus on resealing it. Logus is visibly taken aback by this unexpected intervention. He is immediately challenged by Victo, who demands to know the reason for his actions. The king, his father, looks on in shock, asking for confirmation that the archdemon is truly sealed in a place called paradise. Logus affirms it with a single cold word. Yes. This confrontation was the culmination of a conversation that began moments before. Victo had explained to the king that he'd received reports of monsters becoming active near the capital, prompting him to gather information on the potential calamity. He noted that the commercial city of Kask lies at the foot of paradise, and the damage would be immeasurable if the seal were to break. Returning to the present, Victo looks Logus in the eye. He acknowledges the prince's admiration for the legendary hero Russell, whose portrait hangs on the wall, but firmly states that the current heroes are not the same. The king elaborates, his voice filled with reverence for the past hero. He recounts Russell's legendary achievements, the extermination of the Oni, kin of the archdemon, and the sealing of the evil dragon. Victo then turns his attention to the king and Princess Philia, offering a path forward. He asks them to leave the matter of the bedridden hero, Megumi, to him. Having spent more time incapacitated than anyone, he believes he might be able to help her recover. The guards standing by express their relief at this development. As the offer is made, Logus seethes. He internally scoffs at this trash who gave up his right of succession due to his sickness, now meddling in state affairs. The king continues his argument, questioning if the current heroes could possibly succeed, especially with Megumi bedridden. But Logus's mind is made up. He must demonstrate his own power and strength. Far from the royal court, Haruto Tsutsui looks out his window into the night. He understands he has no choice but to head for paradise. As Mina and an unconscious Megumi sleep nearby, he resolves that their journey will begin tomorrow. Outside, under the light of the moon, the colossal, horned silhouette of their destination looms over the dark landscape. Haruto, Philia, and Megumi arrive at the entrance to the dungeon known as Paradise. The area before the gate bustles with an enormous crowd, with stalls and banners lining the path. Megumi observes that it feels more like a festival than a dangerous labyrinth. As they take in the scene, a familiar voice calls out to them. It is Lisa, cheerfully manning a souvenir shop. Haruto asks what she is doing there, and she explains that she's making a living. She points out that Paradise attracts not only adventurers but also a great number of tourists, making it a veritable gold mine. Her words draw their attention to a large statue nearby, depicting 3 heroic figures. Haruto is stunned to recognize them as Namba and Akamoto, alongside a warrior who looks identical to Megumi, all clad in impressive new gear. Lisa mistakes them for fans and urges them to buy something before she heads off, saying she'll see them later. Their group then proceeds to the main gate, only to be blocked by a muscular gatekeeper. Haruto demands to know why they cannot enter Paradise. The guard dismisses them, stating they lack the necessary strength and must raise their guild rank before they can be granted entry. He clenches his jaw, realizing this is a serious setback. Their rank is still low since they only recently joined the guild. Philia whispers that Rai and the others are using different routes to enter and reminds him that if things get difficult, they have other options they can use. Just then, another guard, this one in a full suit of plate armor, approaches them. He asks if they are adventurers and requests to see their guild cards. Haruto hesitantly hands them over. After a brief inspection, the armored guard gestures for them to proceed. As the massive iron gates begin to groan open, he wishes them safe travels. He then adds a final piece of advice, telling them simply to be careful. He explains that he sees no reason to refuse entry to those who clearly possess strength, his gaze fixed on Haruto and Philia. With a resounding clang, the heavy gates slam shut behind them, sealing the trio inside the dungeon's entrance. A grim truth hangs in the air. No adventurer has ever returned from the deepest depths of paradise. Inside, the miasma is on another level entirely. Philia urges them to hurry. Haruto agrees, reaffirming their mission. They must tame the monsters within paradise, while retrieving the magic tool that is weakening the Calamity Seal. With their objective clear, they resolve to press forward. Elsewhere, Prince Logus leads Namba and Sho along a path through a gnarled, overgrown forest. As they walk, Namba turns to him, asking about the reason for this sudden excursion. Logus replies with a dismissive smile, stating that those who died before were merely dead weight. This time, he explains, they will proceed with an elite few. His words shock both Namba and Sho, who question if all the previous casualties were not enough. Their destination is revealed to be a dungeon entrance marked by a massive horned skull. Sho identifies it as Paradise, the highest difficulty dungeon. Logus confirms this, declaring that there is no better way to make their names echo through the land than by conquering it. He adds that since it only has one floor, it won't take long. Namba, however, urges him to wait. He protests loudly, questioning the need to clear such a high-difficulty dungeon when their fame is already sufficient from clearing the Shadow Dungeon. Logus coldly rebuffs him, stating that a true hero should not be satisfied with so little. The prince then reveals the true stakes. A calamity is sealed within paradise. The shocking revelation leaves both Namba and Sho speechless. Sho, regaining his composure, argues that if they're to face a calamity, they should first prepare more and strengthen the other heroes. Logus counters smoothly, reminding them that defeating this calamity is the very thing that will allow them to return to their world, precisely what they want. Though his reasoning is sound, the prince leans in with a sly grin, placing his hands on their shoulders. He confesses that his true desire is to make them into legends. His intense declaration startles both of his companions. He explains his philosophy. With 27 heroes present, a collective victory would mean only the group's name is remembered. He cannot allow that. Only the true heroes, he insists, should carve their names into history. He tells Namba and Sho that they have earned that right. Sho seems to appreciate the sentiment, but remains hesitant. Suddenly, Logus's expression shifts as he receives new information. He announces that Haruto, Tutsui, and his group are at Paradise. Namba and Sho are stunned. The prince relays that his scouts in Cask saw them, meaning they must have cleared the royal tomb. Namba can't believe it. They cleared a dungeon with a higher difficulty than his own. Sho panics, realizing that if Tutsui's group discovers they were set up, everything will be exposed, and they will lose it all. Logus, his face grim, concludes that this must be why Haruto's party came to the dungeon instead of the castle. They must already suspect something. He watched the dungeon entrance, his expression hardening as he voiced his grim conclusion. Haruto's party, he declared, intended to claim the calamity's power for themselves. Namba, standing beside him, recoiled in disbelief, stammering that surely they wouldn't go that far. But Logus was adamant, asserting that they would then use that power to exact their revenge upon the entire kingdom. The gravity of his words hung in the air. With a sudden surge of urgency, Logus commanded that they must be stopped. The realization struck Namba and Sho with full force, their eyes widening in shared horror at the thought of the kingdom being destroyed by such malice. Elsewhere, Prince Logus considers his next move with a confident smirk. Beside him, Yohei Namba sweats, his expression fraught with anxiety, while Sho stands rigidly. Sho affirms their plan, declaring with conviction that he will stop and eliminate the wicked ones. His subordinate's resolve pleases Logus, whose smirk widens into a predatory grin. With a sharp glance, he issues a simple command to his companions. Let's go. They move to a vantage point within a dense forest. The three of them, along with the creatures Rai and another large feline, peer intently through the trees, observing something in the distance. From another location, Haruto and Philia witness the consequence of that observation. A massive explosion erupts far away, sending a column of smoke billowing into the sky. Haruto cries out in shock and disbelief. His agitation is mirrored by his white wyvern, Lulu, who lets out a series of distressed cries. Haruto rushes to the creature's side, urgently asking what is wrong. As he tries to calm his mount, Mina and Karen join him. Mina looks toward the distant chaos and surmises that Rai and the others must be fighting an enemy. Karen, noticing Haruto's grim expression, asks him what's happened. Before he can respond, the entire party, Haruto, Philia, Mina, Karen, and the anxious Lulu, finds their path obstructed. A line of imposing soldiers, clad in dark armor and intimidating wolf-faced helmets, stands barring their way. Meanwhile, Sho reports to Prince Logus that Haruto's party has been located. Namba recognizes the soldiers with dawning horror, identifying them as the Logus Imperial Guard. Sho, addressed as Roger, confirms their mission, to hold Haruto's group there, reasoning it would be problematic if the tamer and his familiars were to regroup. The full weight of Logos's betrayal crashes down on Namba. The commander of the guard unit addresses Haruto's party directly. He states that the heroes Yohei and Kakeru are with them and are on their way to subjugate the calamity. With his soldiers advancing menacingly, he issues a stern warning. He will ask them not to interfere. He and his companions stood encircled, not just by the Imperial Guard, but by a host of adventurers as well. His armored ally noted that something felt wrong about the assembly. Despite his hesitation, Mina reassured him, correctly guessing that he was worried about Rai and the others. She and their other companion insisted they would handle things there. With a confident smile, Mina urged him to go, telling him to lean on them. His expression hardened with resolve. Trusting them completely, he called out to his wyvern, Lulu, and leaped onto its back, soaring into the sky. The enemy commander watched in disbelief, shouting that he had flown and ordering his troops not to let him get away. On the ground, the armored girl faced the commander directly. She declared that a chaotic brawl would be a hassle, but she still owed him for the royal tomb and would crush him here. The commander retorted that the line was his, warning her not to get cocky despite her newfound power. As if to prove his point, more combatants emerged from the woods, surrounding the two girls. One of the newcomers sneered that they were helpless against such overwhelming numbers. The commander gloated, claiming they couldn't win with such dead weight holding them back. He boasted that his men were elites who explored the mid-levels of paradise, and that the Imperial Guard was even stronger. In response, the armored girl calmly placed a hand on Mina's shoulder, telling her she didn't understand. She explained that the potions Karen makes are top tier, and that is what brings their power to its absolute peak. As if summoned by her words, a colossal being of pure flame erupted from the earth, a fire-scale titan worm. The enemy forces stared up in utter shock as she asked with a smirk if it wasn't the best. The titan unleashed a vortex of destruction, scattering the enemy ranks. Shielding Mina, the armored girl coolly remarked that the commander's boast about his numbers wasn't very reliable, then told Mina it was time to go. Riding atop the colossal fire-scale Gatha's worm, she directs the creature onward with a single, determined shout to Haruto. The fiery beast lets out a triumphant cry as it surges forward, carrying both her and Mina away from the battlefield. On the ground below, their friends can only watch in stunned silence as the spectacle unfolds. Namba, his eyes wide, calls out Haruto's name in confusion, witnessing the fiery escape from the ravaged clearing. Meanwhile, in another location, Haruto stands beside Rai. The large feline creature grows agitated, letting out a low whine and a growl, its instincts clearly sensing a distant disturbance. Back at the clearing, the aftermath of the fiery summoning is stark. The bodies of the wolf-helmed soldiers lie strewn across the ground, defeated and still. Prince Logos arrives to this scene of devastation, his expression contorted with rage. He immediately confronts Namba and the others, sneering with contempt. He questions if they are both blind and stupid before demanding to know if they were the ones responsible for the slaughter. Within the vast, newly formed crater, the opposing forces stood arrayed against each other, the sheer scale of the destruction surrounding them. Their expressions were grim. Sho adjusted his glasses with focus. Prince Logos wore a confident smirk. Yohei Namba's face was twisted in a predatory grin, and Haruto Tutsui's gaze was fixed with determination. As the fire-scale titan worm unleashed a torrent of flame designated Firefall, Haruto cried out in alarm for Mina and Karen, recognizing that their foe was not holding back. Beside him, the armored warrior, Lilat, confirmed her resolve, telling him she hoped he was ready for this. Her readiness was met with a furious roar from Yohei Namba, who bellowed for them not to get cocky and swore he would kill them all. In response, Haruto resolved to use his full power, standing with Lilat to face the threat. Before he could act, Lilat burst into motion, a silver blur streaking across the crater floor with impossible speed, her blade aimed directly toward Namba. Seeing her impossibly fast approach, Sho desperately erected multiple layers of glowing magical defenses. He cried out in disbelief, realizing that even with all his preparations, it was not enough to stop her. Her attack shattered the barriers in a brilliant explosion of force, the magical constructs cracking and disintegrating under the overwhelming power of her strike. From a distance, Rai watched the impact. The blow struck true, incapacitating both of her targets. Sho was thrown back, his glasses shattering, while Namba was slammed violently into the ground. Above them, Prince Logos observed the outcome, his expression unchanged. He calmly noted that even with his ability of future sight, Sho had been completely unable to dodge. The attack was simply too fast for precognition to matter. Watching the prince, Haruto came to a sudden understanding. He realized Lilat knew them, which explained her earlier hesitation to fight. Logos, meanwhile, analyzed the situation from his own perspective, remarking on the familiar's incredible power and questioning if it was amplified because the tamer was nearby. He watched Prince Logos stand over the fallen bodies of his comrades, remarking on the prince's unnerving calm. Haruto openly condemned him, calling him a brainless beast for so easily sacrificing his own allies. Logos simply hummed, unfazed by the accusation. The prince then shifted his attention, ignoring Haruto completely. He addressed Karen Hino by her full name, Karen Minato, asking what she intended to do now. She looked back, confused. As this happened, Haruto reflected internally that the defeated Yohei Namba and his companion weren't weak. In fact, they were considered among the strongest heroes in history. His thoughts continued as he glanced at Rai. Despite their legendary status, Lila's familiar had slaughtered them with ease. He knew, with certainty, that there were even stronger fighters on his side. Logus, however, seemed to hold one of those allies in utter contempt. He addressed Karen from across the field, stating that he felt no significant power from her, and that she was clearly out of place in this battle. His dismissive words provoked Lila, who shot back, demanding to know what he meant. The prince elaborated on his insult, suggesting Karen's only value was in her strength-boosting concoctions, and that she should just hand over the medicine and go home. With a sinister, knowing smile, Logus beckoned towards Karen. He told her that her place was not with them. Haruto's eyes widened in sudden, dawning horror, as if compelled by an unseen force. Karen, now wearing a red hood, began walking stiffly towards the prince. Lilac cried out her name in disbelief, utterly confused by her friend's actions. Understanding the danger, Haruto roared for her to stop, bellowing for her not to move. His panic command only confused Lilac and Mina further, who asked what was wrong. The truth was revealed in Logus's triumphant smirk. He announced that Karen was now under his control, boasting that she would even die if he commanded it. Karen's vacant, wide-eyed stare was a chilling confirmation. To prove his point, he ordered her to spin around and bark. She obeyed instantly, performing the demeaning acts. Logus then turned to Haruto's stunned group and mockingly asked if this was their skill. He continues to mock them through Karen's voice, laughing wildly. He declares his intent to gather enough mana to kill them all, commanding them to remain silent. As Mina and Haruto watch in horror, Haruto's mind races. He questions how to counter the skill. Perhaps with Rai's speed, they could neutralize him before an order is given, but the method to nullify the skill itself remains elusive. As he grapples with this dilemma, Mina's gaze sweeps over their fallen classmates before settling on him with concern. A sudden resolve hardens Haruto's expression. He announces his plan. He will tame Karen. His strange choice of words startles Mina. She questions what he could possibly be, admitting she doesn't understand the true nature of his skill, yet she insists that she has successfully repelled it once before. He clenches his fist, his resolve wavering. The thought of taming Karen, just as he did with Mina, gives him pause. He considers how it might irrevocably alter his relationship with Karen, and perhaps Karen herself. The weight of the decision makes him hesitate. Sensing his uncertainty, Mina calls out his name, urging him that this is no time to hesitate. She reassures him that the important things between them will not change, giving him the final push he needs. On a barren hilltop, the decisive battle continues. A girl in a red hood walks calmly toward Haruto, who stands his ground. In the distance, Prince Logus watches with his beast, Rai. He bellows at the girl, questioning her sanity and ordering her not to move. Ignoring her, he shifts his focus to Haruto, his eyes glowing with power as he attempts to invoke his tame ability. In response, Haruto slams his hand onto the earth. A complex magical sigil flares to life beneath him, erupting with energy to counter the prince's assault. Logus bursts into manic laughter, convinced of his victory. He gloats that if his targets are already under his control, Haruto's taming skill is useless. He then commands Karen Minato to get her hands off him. She, however, merely gives him a flat, unimpressed look and calmly refuses his command. Her defiance leaves Logus utterly stunned. He watches in disbelief as Haruto, now standing beside the red-hooded girl, appears completely back to normal. The prince's smug demeanor vanishes. He scoffs, asking why he should tell Haruto anything. Haruto calmly presses, asking about the specifics of his domination-type skill. Agitated, Logus retorts that the first domination skill used should have priority. Then, a horrifying realization strikes him. His eyes widen as he identifies the true nature of his opponent's power, mind control. As Logus seethes with frustration, the red-hooded girl cheerfully explains that she had wanted the appraisal skill and created a prototype potion to replicate it. She confirms that the adventurers they fought were being manipulated by mind control and notes that Haruto must possess a powerful, cheat-like version of the skill. Logus's face darkens, realizing his concern was misplaced. She clenches her fist, continuing her analysis. It seems she concludes that to control a target, one must exploit a gap in their heart. She apologizes, admitting that Prince Logus's words had shaken her and that she is clearly the weakest one present. Karen protests, insisting that they need her, but the red-hooded girl feels the power of Haruto's tame skill surging within her, resolving to be useful from now on. Nearby, Haruto contemplates the concept of a gap in the heart. He turns his attention to Karen, stating plainly that he enjoys his time with her. With a gentle expression, he asks her to please stay by his side forever, catching both her and the red-hooded girl by surprise. Her face flushes a deep red. The red-hooded girl is struck completely speechless, her eyes wide with shock and embarrassment at Haruto's sudden declaration. She stammers, trying to dismiss his words as a figure of speech and protesting that she has a private life. Internally, however, she is in turmoil, wondering why Haruto suddenly seems so cool. She concludes it must be the effect of his tame skill. Their exchange is cut short by Logus, who scoffs at their chatter, asking if they truly believe they have already won. His patience exhausted, Prince Logus unleashes his power, declaring that he has gathered enough mana to annihilate them all. A massive sphere of destructive energy forms before him as the red-hooded girl watches in alarm. Before the spell can be launched, several impossibly fast, dark projectiles pierce the air, striking the concentration of mana and causing it to dissipate harmlessly in a flash of light. His ultimate attack neutralized in an instant, Logus stares in disbelief. The realization washes over him, cold and absolute. They have lost. Haruto steps forward, his expression grim as he declares that it is over. The defeated prince, sweating and wide-eyed with shock, can only utter a single word in disbelief: rogues. Before he can act further, a tall, imposing figure shrouded in dark, tattered robes and a wide-brimmed hat materializes on the battlefield. It stands over the fallen Logus, facing Haruto in silent challenge. The sudden arrival of this unknown entity leaves both Haruto and Prince Logus utterly stunned, their conflict forgotten in a moment of shared, wide-eyed shock. He and his companions stare in stunned silence at the newcomer. Karen Hino, her eyes wide with alarm, questions how it could have appeared from nowhere and remarks on the overwhelming pressure it radiates. The red-hooded girl, standing near the robed figure, turns back and shouts in confusion. Haruto, however, looks on with dawning horror, realizing the impossible truth of what this being is. The robed figure's true nature is revealed: a colossal, gnarled ogre with a single, baleful, glowing eye. A maelstrom of raw power erupts from its location, twisting the very air into a chaotic vortex. A massive explosion of dark energy erupts, sending a shockwave through the city. Onlookers are thrown into a panic, crying out in confusion and terror as the blast tears through the streets. Caught in the torrent of power, Lilith is thrown violently backward, letting out a piercing scream of terror. As the chaos swirls, Namba's eyes become voids of pure blackness. A single, overriding command consumes his thoughts: kill the hero. Further away, Haruto and his companions watch as the wave of energy vanishes before reaching them. The red-hooded girl asks what it was, and Haruto grimly explains that it was the demon's malice, leaking from its seal. The malice has found new hosts. Prince Logus stands with a triumphant smirk, flanked by an empowered Namba and a masked warrior. He declares that the demonic force has granted them power. The two groups face off. Haruto, Lilith, and the red-hooded girl stare with expressions of shock and fury. Logus, his grin widening, announces his sole intention: to eliminate all of them. From a distance, Sho calls out to Namba, questioning why he's siding with the demon he was supposed to slay. But Namba is lost in ecstasy, marveling at the power surging through him and boasting that he can no longer lose to a mere familiar. He roars that he doesn't care anymore, unleashing a torrent of energy that sends Lilith flying. He proclaims that his burning impulse is now for one thing only. His crazed eyes lock onto Haruto's determined gaze. With a twisted grin, Namba screams his intent for all to hear. He's going to kill Haruto, and that is all that matters. He stands his ground in a desolate forest, his large, bladed weapon held ready. Across from him, the girl in the red hood assumes a combat stance, her own smaller scythe prepared for battle. He then addresses her directly, calling her Karen Minato. He states with disdain that unlike Yohei, he has no interest in bullying the weak, though his eyes suggest there is more to his intentions. In response, she lunges forward, declaring that she has also grown stronger. A swirling vortex of magic forms before her as she unleashes a barrage of crystalline projectiles, shouting the name of her spell: Ice Arrow. Meanwhile, the conflict rages elsewhere. Namba, his face contorted with fury, screams Mina Mochizuki's name, roaring for her to die. Mina watches him, her expression hardening as she realizes she must regroup with the others. His path is blocked by the colossal fire-scale titan worm. Enraged by the obstacle, Namba bellows for the creature to get out of his way. The colossal worm's attack is not limited to Namba's front. Its fiery fists rain down upon Haruto, who calmly raises his own arms, effortlessly blocking every single blow with crystalline barriers. As the students watch the display, Namba smirks with demonic confidence. He tells Haruto that while he doesn't know the extent of his newfound power, it is nothing compared to the might of the demon he now wields. He calmly replies, explaining that he had already embedded a synthesis magic circle into the ice arrow she fired. With a declaration, he reshapes her spell into something new. Synthesis conversion, Ice Legion. From the lingering mana, an arsenal of ice weapons materializes. The red-hooded girl realizes with horror that his plan was always a two-stage barrage. The legion of ice weapons shatters harmlessly around him. He stands untouched amidst the debris, coolly informing the girl that against his current self, such a level of force is insufficient. She can only grunt in shocked disbelief. He dismisses her effort and turns his back, unleashing a devastating combination of his own spells. An ice cannon, an ice bow, and a volley of ice arrows converge on the red-hooded girl, who screams as the overwhelming assault engulfs her. He is suddenly struck by a barrage of unseen impacts, his body jolting as his attack is nullified. His mind reels in disbelief, questioning why his opponent won't simply give up. He is certain that with his future sight combined with his enhanced physique, it's useless for her to resist. There should be no attack he can't react to. The reason for his failure becomes clear. The red-hooded girl stands with a confident smirk, the ground around her dotted with dozens of small, shimmering magic circles. She acknowledges his precognitive ability, remarking that, as expected, he was quick to catch on to her strategy. But his realization comes too late. From every circle, a rabbit sculpted from pure ice leaps forth, forming a relentless, swarming legion. The girl announces her spell, Synthesis Conversion, Ice Legion Rabbit Carnival. She explains that this super-saturated attack, made possible by boosted mana and synthesis, is the perfect counter. If a direct push fails, one must simply push harder. In the distance, Haruto is completely engulfed by the icy horde. The countless ice projectiles coalesce into a single, gigantic frozen rabbit, encasing Haruto completely within its form. The red-hooded girl stands before her handiwork, questioning his futile resistance. With a confident gaze, she asks if his vaunted future sight managed to predict this particular outcome.